Hello everyone, welcome back. My name is Chris. Today I want to talk about the grad school application process and go over 6 tips which should help improve your application. So if you're planning an application for this fall or winter, or if you're just thinking about it for next year, let's check out some ways to have your application stand out. If you're new to my channel, I'm an assistant professor in the field of geosciences. And in the past few years, I've served on my department's graduate admissions committee several times. So as a rough estimate, I've probably read 300 to 400 grad applications in that time. I bring that up as background to show that I have experience in what I'm going to be talking about, but also as a reminder to myself to give a mini disclaimer that every discipline is different and every department is a little different. So you always want to consider how advice is applicable to your situation and whether or not you need to make any adjustments for the field you're working in. By the way, if you find this video helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel to check out my other videos. Let's start by covering the general timeline and process of applying to graduate schools. Most of this advice will be applicable to STEM fields in the United States, and it also varies a bit by discipline. So you want to make sure to check the actual deadlines and information about the specific programs that you're applying to. If you want to enter a graduate program in the fall of some year, then the deadline for submitting an application is generally in early January of that same year. So applications to start in the fall 2022 semester would be due somewhere around New Year's of 2022. And the range on this is usually around mid-December to mid-January. Those application deadlines set the timeline for the rest of the process. Again, these are going to vary a little bit based on your discipline, but generally you can break it up into investigating different programs, contacting potential advisors and programs in the fall, assembling and preparing your application, actually submitting that application, the visits that these programs typically host for their top applicants, and the decision time. This whole cycle takes roughly about 12 months. Some universities and programs will allow students to enter at other times of the year, like spring semester, but these are generally more rare. I've put a rough outline on screen of sort of the phases of the application cycle and the approximate timings of those phases. So you're going to want to do your research starting roughly 12 months in advance. In the fall before applications are due, you'll be contacting potential places. Again, applications are due roughly New Year's. After programs get all those applications, the committee can actually meet and start sorting through them. A visit for potential applicants would happen sometime February, March, something like that. And then legally, universities are required to tell you before April 15th so that you can make a decision by that date. So along this process and timeline, there's several things that you can do to improve your application and increase your chances of a better outcome. And that's the point of today's video. I've got 6 tips to help you with your applications, so let's get into those. I've tried to go and generalize these tips, so it shouldn't really matter what field you're working in. All right, so tip number 1, research what you want in a program. This might seem a little obvious, so what do I actually mean? Everyone's different, and only you know the kind of environment that is going to help you succeed in graduate school. Do you want a hands-on advisor who's very involved with your project? Or someone whose style is more hands-off, where they have fewer meetings and more high-level direction? Do you want to be in a small lab where you can get individual attention? Or do you want to be in a large lab where you can interact with more students and postdocs? What kind of projects interest you? Are they individual, big collaborative? Are they field-based? Are they more lab-based, etc.? Answering these example questions requires you to think deeply about yourself and what kind of student you are. There's a great resource online about grad school visits written by a bunch of grad students in computer science at Carnegie Mellon University. I'll link to it in the description, and I'm also going to mention it later on. They compiled a list of questions that you'd want to ask on a visit to figure out if a program is right for you. The cheat sheet list of questions is really great. My suggestion would be to go over this list of questions at the whole start of the process in the fall and figure out what your preferred answers would be. Figuring out your preferences at the beginning of the process is going to let you narrow down the programs that you're looking at and the potential advisors that you want to work with. It's also going to help you to know what to look for when you're researching a program. A department may look great from a bird's eye view, but if there isn't an advisor there who does the kind of work that you want to do and fits your style, then that program might not be a great fit for you. The next tip is about emailing with prospective advisors and programs. I'm not really sure what % of people applying know that this is something that they should do, but it is something that you should do. Emailing potential advisors a few months before the application deadlines is a great way to get more information and to get a little feedback on if you might fit well in a group. In my field, admissions are pretty much always based on a specific faculty advisor, and so program staff generally only answer questions about the application process. In other disciplines, sometimes students are admitted generally to the department or program, and then sometime in the future they choose a lab that they want to work in. So in that case, the department staff, or maybe the admissions committee, if you know who they are, would be more helpful in answering questions. A good email generally introduces yourself, mentions why you find that particular advisor's research interesting, has a few questions about the university, and includes a CV. For example, you might ask if that person is planning on accepting any new grad students in the next round. This typically depends on if they have the funding resources and if they took recent students. A couple red flags to avoid in your emails. One would be being too generic. Sometimes people recycle emails and they send me one that says they want to work on something that I don't actually work on. Another red flag is if someone hyper-focuses on a paper I wrote a few years ago, because I'm not necessarily still working on that topic. So you want to hit this nice middle ground of being interested in the research area that someone works in, but also flexible enough that you want to brainstorm a new and exciting idea with them. Also, if someone doesn't respond to your email, the chances are very high that it just got buried or they forgot about it, because faculty get quite a large volume of email. So you can politely follow up and remind them 1 to 2 weeks later without having much guilt or stress that it had anything to do with what you wrote. All right, tip number 3, try to save some money when you can. In the past year or two, a lot of departments in my field of earth science have removed the GRE exam as part of their graduate admissions application. In my field, there's a large enough critical mass of departments that I would recommend to students that they avoid the exam, that they don't consider departments that require it, and just save the $300 to $400 that it costs to take this exam. At this point, you can put together a good slate of programs to apply to that don't require it. I think there are similar trends in other disciplines, but I don't know how far they've spread. So you want to look into this well before you would need to sign up and take the exam. Even if you end up paying for the GRE exam, many departments and universities will offer fee waivers for their applications. There's often just a form that you can fill out, answer a few questions, and then have the application fee waived. Frankly, I find it gross that universities even charge application fees in the first place, so I would take every opportunity you can to not give them any money. It's me taking a break halfway through filming this video. Alright, tip number 4, match your personal statement to what you want to do. There are a lot of different ways to write a good personal statement, but I think it needs to have 3 key things in it. The first is addressing why you want to go to grad school. The second thing is, why do you think you're prepared for success or will have success? This includes your relevant experience, for example. And number 3, why do you specifically want to attend this place that you're applying to? Most people get the first 2 items without much trouble, but they struggle on that last item. This is where you should bring in info from tip 1 and tip 2, your own searching, and your conversations with advisors. You can talk about possible projects you discussed with an advisor, and what are the important science questions and why you find them interesting. You can talk about some observation or some technique that the lab group is good at making and how you want to apply it to a specific problem. Or maybe you're from a location that the advisor or lab group works in frequently, and it's important to you that you study something about your home. You want to find a middle ground where on the one hand you can show the department that you've done a lot of research where you kind of know what you want to work on. On the other hand, you want to show that you're flexible about specific projects you want to work on, because ultimately science is a really collaborative endeavor, and you're going to need to build a project with other people. Tip number 5, do the work to get good letters of reference. The very first video I did on my channel is all about how to improve your letters of reference. I'll put a link to the video up top here. The short version is that you can do a little work yourself to help out your letter writers, and you'll get better letters written in return. The more information that you give your letter writers, the more detailed their letters can be. This includes more information about your academic record, your research interests, or why do you want to go to grad school. All of that information can help them write a more rich and detailed letter. So check out that other video for the full details. All right, last tip, ace the visit. If you get invited out to visit a school in the spring, and they're paying for you to visit, the odds are pretty good that they're going to accept you if they haven't already. But you can still cement that deal by having a good visit, and you'll definitely find out more info on if that program's right for you. I mentioned this earlier, but I found a great visit resource written by a bunch of grad students in computer science at Carnegie Mellon University. It's a paired cheat sheet list and a longer form article about all sorts of questions that you would want to ask on your visit. These are all broken down into categories covering different aspects of the grad school experience. So things like funding, or research projects, or your working relationship with an advisor. On top of that, they're all labeled for who is likely the best source of information to answer that question. So that's whether you want to ask your potential advisor or if you want to ask students that are already in that program. Again, I'll put a link in the description to this resource because I really think it's great, and shout out to all the grad students that put in work to make it happen. All right, so those are 6 tips to help you improve your grad school applications. If you have more tips you want to share, leave them down in the comments. And if you want me to do a video on a certain part of the application process, leave that suggestion down there too. I'll see everybody next time, and thanks for watching. All of that information can... I'll see everybody next time, and thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. It's just like riding a bicycle. Except, I mean, this is what happens when I don't do this for 6 months.